By 2069, it wasn't just popular, it was a way of life. Nobody remembered how to sleep without one anymore. It all happened around 2098, way back when folks couldn't sleep without these fancy gadgets called sleepwatches. They were as common as shoes, little wrist gizmos that hum and buzz and zap your brain just right to help you fall asleep in no time. If you didn't have one, it was like trying to sleep on a bed of nails. Nobody even remembered how to fall asleep on their own. Wild, huh? Back in my day, people were always hooked on the newest thing. But let me tell you, this one took the cake. Well, there was Ronan, this big old guy with arms like tree trunks, always helping folks get fit and shouting, "Push harder, one more rep." He loved it for a while, but one day he thought, "Man, I'm done with this gym life. I want to get out there, see some real wild places, and maybe do something creative for once." So he made up his mind to leave the weights behind and give this whole content creation thing a shot. Back then, everybody was trying it. Little did he know, life was about to get a whole lot more interesting. Now, let me tell you, Ronan was feeling all kinds of ways about quitting that gym. Part of him was fired up, thinking, "Yeah, I'm gonna go out there, see the world, live my dream." But then another part was like, what if I mess this up? What if I end up broke and living in a tent? You know how it is. Big life changes can make your stomach feel like a rodeo. But he kept telling himself, you can't find something new if you're too scared to let go of the old. So he packed up his locker and waved goodbye to the treadmills and dumbbells he'd spent years with. Goodbye, old life. Hello, new adventures. Brave kid, that Ronan. Or maybe just crazy. So Ronan's friends threw him a little goodbye party. Nothing fancy, just some music, laughs, and stories. They all teased him, saying, "You're really quitting the gym to wander around the jungle? What are you even gonna do out there?" Ronan just grinned and said, "Make videos, find inspiration. Maybe wrestle a bear, who knows?" That got a big laugh. Amid the fun, Ronan leaned back and said, "You all remember that skinny guy who bought a gym membership, paid for 3 months, walked in, looked around like he was lost, and walked right back out?" Everyone chuckled because, yeah, they remembered. Ronan grinned. That dude didn't come back for 2 whole months. When he finally did, he couldn't even lift the bar, but he kept showing up day after day. Yeah, look at it. I heard that guy eventually got pretty ripped. Probably had a good trainer, huh? Ronan rolled his eyes. Not just ripped, he ended up working at the gym. Became one of our best employees. Man, you should have seen him. Confidence through the roof. The group laughed, and Ronan added, "That guy even became my best friend." "Yep, I'm talking about you, Luke." His buddy slapped him on the back and said, "Don't forget us when you're famous." Ronan promised he wouldn't. The room settled into a warm silence for a moment, and Luke raised his glass. "Here's to Ronan. We'll miss you, man." The bittersweet mood crept in, but Ronan just smiled, feeling lucky to have such good friends. He'd missed them, sure, but he was ready to answer the call of the road. So there is Ronan, walking home from the party, feeling kinda nostalgic, but mostly excited about the jungle trip. To pass the time, he pops on a podcast about sleep watches, those gadgets everybody wore back then. The host starts talking about how, back around 2064, people were all stressed out. Too much work, too much tech, and not enough sleep. Folks are practically zombies walking around. So somebody finally said, "Hey, let's invent something to fix this." And that's when they came up with the watch. It wasn't just a regular smartwatch. This thing had a fancy sleep app that could zap your body into dreamland faster than flipping a light switch. People loved it. No more tossing and turning. Put it on, press a button, and boom, you're snoozing. By 2069, it wasn't just popular. It was a way of life. Nobody remembered how to sleep without one anymore. Ronan listened, nodding along. He'd grown up with it, like everybody else. Couldn't imagine hitting the hay without it. Still, something about all that bothered him a little. He thought about how his grandpa used to say, "Back in my day, we just counted sheep. Didn't need no fancy gadgets." Maybe people were too dependent on the things now. But hey, who had time to think about all that? Ronan shrugged it off, figuring he'd still need his watch out in the jungle. Little did he know, he was about to find out what life was like without it. And let me tell you, it was a game changer. So Ronan gets home and starts packing for his big jungle adventure. Now, he wasn't taking much. Just some snacks and a change of clothes. Real minimalist stuff. But the one thing he made sure to grab, yep, his trusty watch. He held it up and said to himself, "As long as I got this baby, I'll sleep like a log, even out there with the bugs and critters." He figured the watch would handle it all. His sleep, his maps, his videos. Kid thought he was ready for anything. Well, now, Ronan finally makes it to this little old town right near the jungle. And let me tell you, this town, it was as sweet as grandma's apple pie. The kind of place where nobody's in much of a rush. Folks would tip their hats or give him a friendly wave as he strolled on by, and Ronan, he couldn't help but grin like a kid in a candy store. It was so simple, so peaceful, felt like time itself was taking a deep breath and just slowing right down. He went into the local store to grab some supplies, just the basics. He picked up some dried food, water, and a good old sleeping bag. He thought, I'll be sleeping under the stars, no need for fancy stuff. The storekeeper, an old fella with glasses, looked him over and said, "You heading into the jungle? You better be ready for anything." Ronan just nodded like, "Yeah, I got it covered. I've got my watch." That made the guy raise an eyebrow, but Ronan didn't think much of it. Well, after getting his supplies, Ronan heads into the jungle. And Now let me tell you, the place was something else. It seemed like entering a completely different universe. The trees were so thick you couldn't see the sky, and the air smelled rich, like fresh rain and earth. The sound, oh man, the birds. They were singing like a choir. Ronan stood there, wide-eyed, just taking it all in. This is it, he thought. Then, of course, he whips out his trusty watch. He didn't just want to see the sights. He was there to capture it all. The watch had a built-in camera, and he started taking videos, talking to the lens like he was already making his documentary. "Look at this," he said. "These birds are amazing." He almost forgot to breathe, so absorbed was he. So there Roman is, walking through that jungle, just amazed at everything around him. Now, remember, he's a city boy, so all this nature stuff, it was new to him. He didn't know the first thing about what he was looking at. But lucky for him, his watch had a nature podcast app. You could find an episode on just about any wonder of nature you could think of. Volcanoes spitting fire? They had it. Glaciers cracking and groaning as they moved? Yep, that too. It was like having the whole world right there on his wrist. So Ronan slapped it on, found an episode about the jungle, and started listening while walking. Figured he'd learn a thing or two while he explored. The podcast host started talking about the jungle's flora and fauna, and Ronan couldn't believe some of the stuff he was hearing. Did you know that some plants in the jungle, like the sensitive plant, can actually close their leaves when you touch them? Then the podcast got to the birds. There are over 400 species of birds in this jungle alone, the host said. Turns out that those birds have special voices that echo through the thick jungle, carrying up to a mile away. And oh, their colors. The podcast painted a picture so vivid, Ronan could almost see them. Bright blues like a summer sky, greens as fresh as new leaves, and reds that pop like fireworks. Ronan couldn't help but smile, imagining all those colors blending together, like nature's own masterpiece. As he kept walking, the podcast mentioned tree frogs. You know, the little critters that make a sound like a rubber band snapping. Ronan had to stop and listen for a bit. Sure enough, he heard it. "That's crazy," he whispered to himself. And then there was the rainforest canopy, where the tallest trees live. Apparently, these trees can grow over 200 feet tall. They're like the skyscrapers of the jungle, reaching up into the clouds. Ronan couldn't even see the tops of them. As he kept walking, Ronan was feeling smarter and smarter. He thought, this jungle's a gold mine of knowledge. He wasn't just here for the adventure. He was here to learn. Well, after all that walking and learning, Ronan found this perfect little spot by a stream. It was quiet, peaceful, with the sun poking through the trees. He sat down, just listening to the birds singing and the water trickling by. He closed his eyes for a minute and thought, "Man, this is the good stuff. Maybe this is what I was missing all along." He felt so connected to everything, like he wasn't just a guy from the city anymore. He was part of this wild, beautiful place. He got this big burst of inspiration, thinking, "This is what I came for." So, night started falling, and the jungle got real quiet, except for the chirping of crickets and the soft buzz of cicadas. The sky turned this deep purple, and a few stars started peeking out through the treetops. Ronan found himself a good spot, laid out his sleeping bag, and sat down to take it all in. Now, this was something new for him. He listened to the rustling leaves, the distant hoots of some bird, and the gentle sounds of the stream nearby. It was peaceful, as if the world was finally slowing down. As he unpacked his things, he reached for his watch. He turned it over in his hands, looking at the smooth surface and thinking about how it had been with him every night for as long as he could remember. But something about being out there in that jungle made him pause. He thought, what if I don't use it tonight? What if I just let the jungle lull me to sleep? It wasn't an easy decision. He'd relied on that watch for so long that the idea of going without it felt strange, almost scary. He crawled into his sleeping bag, chuckled to himself, and said, "Come on, Ronan. If you can't do it here, surrounded by all this beauty, when can you?" So there is Ronan, snug in his sleeping bag under a sky full of stars. The jungle humming its nighttime tune all around him. He stared up at those twinkling lights, feeling the warm cocoon of his sleeping bag, and thought, "Okay, no watch tonight. Let's figure this out." He started thinking about folks he'd heard of who didn't rely on these gadgets. There was this one lady he'd read about who firmly believed in the power of bedtime stories. She'd just pop on a soothing tale and drift off like a baby. Then there was a guy who said he could fall asleep anywhere just by taking a few slow, deep breaths and clearing his mind. And another woman, she was old school. She'd curl up with a book before bed, letting her eyes get tired until she couldn't keep them open any longer. Ronan considered his options. Stories could work, he muttered to himself. But breathing sounds simpler. And reading? Nah, not out here. My watch screen's too small. Now, the watch did have a fancy feature where it could project a book like a hologram, floating right in front of you, big as a real page. It was slick, I tell ya, like something out of those old sci-fi movies. But here's the thing. That fancy trick drained the battery faster than a kid with a cookie jar. Ronan wasn't about to waste precious power on reading when he needed that watch for more important stuff, like navigation and podcasts. I'll save the hologram magic for another time, he thought with a shrug, thinking about how much his life had come to rely on that little gadget. He decided to start simple. He tried taking some slow, deep breaths, like that guy had mentioned. In, out, he thought, focusing on the rhythm. His mind started to wander. So he stopped and thought about bedtime stories instead. Maybe I'll try that next, he thought, talking himself deeper into the bag. He pulls out his watch and opens up this podcast on YouTube that he'd heard about called Bedtime Experience. It's a collection of gentle tales meant to help folks relax and, well, drift off. He spots one called The Mermaid's Dreams. The description said it was about a young woman on an extraordinary journey that blurred the lines between reality and imagination. Sounds peaceful enough, he mutters, settling back in his bag. He sets the watch to play, takes it off his wrist, and places it carefully beside him. For the first time in years, the watch wasn't on him. It felt strange, like he was leaving an old friend behind. But as the story started, he forgot all about that. The narrator spoke in this soft tone as if he were auditioning for a role in a meditation app, perfect for a bedtime tale. He described the girl walking along shores, searching, following the songs of the sea, drawn by the mystery of those mermaids and their magical dreams. As Ronan listened, he felt his muscles relax, his mind growing quieter with every word. He pictured that girl by the sea, hearing the ocean sing. The jungle sounds around him seemed to blend with the story. Before he realized it, his thoughts started to fade. The girl's journey, the mermaid's songs, the whispers of the waves, they all melted into a peaceful hum. And just like that, Ronan fell asleep. Well, when Ronan woke up the next morning, he felt different. Not just rested, he felt alive. He stretched out, listening to the birds singing the morning tunes, and thought, so this is what natural sleep feels like. Who knew? With a grin on his face and a spring in his step, he packed up his things and headed deeper into the jungle. The air smelled fresh, like it was made just that morning, and sunlight danced through the leaves, making patterns on the ground. This place, he thought, it's something else. Well, now, let me tell you about the time Ronan came face to face with the river in the middle of that jungle. He'd been wandering through the trees, taking in the sights, when suddenly he stepped out onto a rocky shore. There it was, a big old river, flowing clear and fast, glittering in the sunlight. And wouldn't you know it, across the way was the most beautiful viewpoint he'd ever seen. The land over there rose up just right, like it was made to show off the whole jungle. Ronan stood there for a bit, hands on his hips, thinking, guess there's no bridge out here, he muttered to himself. But the idea of turning back, nope, not happening. He was curious to see what was on the other side, and he'd have to earn it. So he took off his backpack and started getting ready. First, he packed up his clothes real tight, making sure they wouldn't get wet. Then he slipped his watch and anything else that couldn't swim into the bag too. He stood there on the rocks, feeling the cool breeze coming off the water, and thought about his old life. "This river's like a line," he said out loud. "On this side's the old me, the guy tied to his gadgets, all the stuff that never let me breathe." He looked across to the far bank. Over there, that's something new, clean, free. With that thought, he stepped into the river. The water was cold, like a slap to the senses. But it wasn't bad. It was good, refreshing. He took another step, and then another, feeling the current tug at his legs. Each step felt like he was shaking off the past, like the water was washing away old worries, old habits, old doubts. About halfway across, the river got deeper, climbing up to his waist. The current got stronger too, making him focus on each step. He had to steady himself, feeling the river bed under his feet. One step at a time, he told himself. One step at a time. He felt more alive the deeper he went. The cold water didn't just chill him, it woke him up. It was like the river was saying, "Welcome to something new, Ronan." At last, he arrived on the other side. He climbed up, grinning from ear to ear. He plopped down on the grass, letting the sun warm him up while he unpacked his clothes. But sitting there, looking back at the water he'd just left, he felt something shift inside. That's it, he thought. That's the line I crossed. That new me, he's just getting started. He stood up, stretched, and looked toward the viewpoint he'd spotted from the other side. The climb wasn't easy, but when he got to the top, the view took his breath away. The jungle stretched out for miles. The river he'd just crossed sparkled like a silver ribbon winding its way through the land. Ronan took a deep breath, letting it all sink in. He felt clean, renewed, like he'd been reborn somehow. He felt light, like he wasn't carrying the weight of his old life anymore. He laughed out loud, standing there with his arms stretched wide. Well, after crossing that river and feeling all fresh and new, Ronan kept going, wandering deeper into the jungle. The air felt softer somehow, like the world had quieted down. Then he stumbled on this spot. Let me tell you, it was something real special. It was like a little hidden sanctuary tucked away behind some big old ferns. There were trees stretching way up into the sky, their branches making a canopy that let the sunlight trickle down in soft little patches. And there, Sitting in the trees were these birds. Not just one or two, there were dozens of them, all snuggled up like they didn't have a single worry in the world. Ronan stood there, not wanting to make a sound. He could see their feathers puffed up like tiny pillows, their heads tucked in all cozy. Even the air around them felt calm, like the whole place was just humming with peace. Slowly, real slowly, he reached for his watch. He wasn't gonna talk or narrate this time. He just wanted to capture it. Plain and simple. He switched the camera on and started recording. Moving so quiet, you'd think he was sneaking into a cookie jar. The birds didn't stir, not a single one. He caught the way their feathers glowed in the light. Soft blues and greens, and even some little specks of gold. When he was done, he sat down nearby, still quiet as could be, and just soaked it all in. Well now, this was the kind of spot Ronan couldn't walk away from. He looked around at those sleeping birds, the trees swaying just a bit in the breeze and the stars peeking through the canopy like little diamonds. He thought to himself, this place? Yeah, this is where I'll spend the night. He set his bag down and started getting his little camp ready. Without thinking about the watch, he climbed to his sleeping bag. He took a deep, slow, steady breath and exhaled with ease. All right, he whispered to himself. Let's clear out this old mind. He remembered the guy in the podcast who said to breathe deep and focus on nothing. So that's what he tried. He listened to the sound of the jungle, the sweet melody of birds singing, the rustle of leaves, the faint hum of the night. So there Ronan was, all cozied up in his sleeping bag, looking up at a sky so full of stars it made him feel like a kid again. But his mind, it was racing with all sorts of ideas. But if he had to think about something, let it be a good memory. So he smiled to himself, and he thought about this one day at the gym. It was one of those good ones, you know? A day where he really felt like he made a difference. He'd helped a bunch of folks with their workouts. Even convinced one guy not to skip leg day. Then he'd pushed himself through a tough session. Left the gym feeling sore in all the right ways. He went home. Took one of those slow, warm showers, and just smiled the whole time, proud of what he'd done. He remembered climbing into bed that night. No watch, no apps. Just him and his tired, happy self. He'd fallen asleep so easy, like he didn't have a care in the world. Maybe that's what I need to find again, he thought. The jungle was quieting down now, and the cicadas started up their symphony. Ronan took a deep breath, slow, like filling a jar with honey, and let it out just as slow. Now, listening was what he decided to do. He didn't try to stop the thoughts. He just let them drift, like clouds floating across the sky, telling himself, breathe in, real deep. Feel your chest rise up. Now let it all go, nice and slow. He focused on the cicada's hum, how it was steady and calm, never rushing. This sound, he thought, is the whole jungle breathing. Just listen to it. Just listen. And just like that, he fell asleep, natural as the trees swaying in the night breeze. No watch, no apps, just him and the jungle, doing what they were meant to do. Ronan woke up the next morning, stretched out in his sleeping bag, feeling the cool jungle air on his face, watching the soft light of dawn, and listening to the sound of birds slowly waking up. Just like him, he stood up slowly and he realized something. This wasn't just about sleeping without his watch. It was bigger than that. It was about slowing down, letting himself feel life without all the gadgets doing the thinking for him. So there Ronan was, standing in the middle of that jungle, looking around like he was seeing the world for the very first time. The air smelled fresher. The trees looked taller, and even the sunlight peeking through the leaves felt warmer. Every little thing, every bird's chirp, every rustle of the leaves felt like it had a purpose, like it was all speaking to him. He took a step forward, then another, feeling lighter with every stride, like he'd left all that old baggage behind him. On the other side of that river, and with each step, the path ahead grew clearer, showing him that anything was possible from here on out.